Hello, YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Lethis, Path of Progress, Strategy and Tactics, Quick Tip Episode 4. So in our last episode, we had laid down our production facilities for both our beer and our wheat, and those have been humming along nicely. You may notice there is a backlog of flour in my storehouse. That is not due to a poor balance of the ratio. That was because I derped and forgot to actually tell this granary to accept bread, so our bakers remained idle for a while, so the flour built up, and now since they're using the flour at the same rate that it's coming in, that backlog will be there pretty much forever. You know what? I can build a fifth bakery here just to chew through the backlog. So it'll slowly, yeah, I know, wine, unemployment. Yeah, well, that's a good thing to have in the grand scheme of things, unemployment. Not in the long term, but now we have leveled up our stuff to level 6. Level 5 was the beer got them to level 5. Then I turned on their theaters, and that brings them to level 6. So they are doing quite nicely, and I have not had a downgrade yet. The other ratio I want to point out is that one abbey is enough to provide alcohol to an entire block. So 2 blocks, 2 abbeys. If you make more abbeys than that, then you'll have an access, but that might be a good thing for exporting. Speaking of, so for exporting, you want to keep an eye on your map, and this is especially true for the campaign. It's not so much for Sandbox, but take an eye, especially at the beginning of the game, and see what exports, who is buying what. So here we've got somebody who's buying fish. That's a really good. That's a really good thing, because we're, well, needless to say, swimming in fish. Pun intended. Over here, we've got someone who is buying bread. That's another great thing, because you know what? As far as workers go, they're not too picky about what they eat. So the fact that we are, bringing up all this fish, that's great. All this bread, they could eat it, yeah, maybe, but you know what? We could sell it. So what I've done here is I've opened up the route and set this to export bread. So we actually exported more than the normal capacity. That sometimes happens. I'm not too sure why that happens, but at the very least, that brings you in some extra income. So if you're looking to boost your money, that's 800 florins that came in from exportations alone. That was just from that bread. So if you want to keep an eye on that, and also try to overproduce things that have the ability to export stuff in. So we're actually making more fish than we actually need. So we can actually start exporting this stuff. I missed the other emperor's declaration. He didn't actually do anything to me. It just tells me he hates me. I'm a little fuzzy on what the emperor does and what his mood is like there. So we're going to, we haven't opened up that one. You're the one that wants that. So we're going to go ahead and export us up some fish. And normally, if I'm going to be exporting something, I'll just tell it to export as much as they'll take, and then I'll just overproduce to make up for it. Now, again, keeping in mind that these things kick out 100 fish per 100 fish per month, 12 months in the year. Of times how much they'll accept. This thing will accept 2 fisheries worth of just overproduction, in order, so that much will be exported here. As you can see, month rolls over and everyone kicks out their stuff, including the bakers. The bakers kick out their bread at the same rate that the fishmongers do. So the end of the month is a very busy time for just about everyone. The production buildings, I don't think are tuned exactly with the month end, so they'll just keep churning stuff out as long as they have raw materials. Speaking of materials, so the next thing in our is utensils. Now, depending on the map that you're dealing with here, you may be able to go out and mine the copper yourself, or you might have to import it, depending on whether or not there is steam or not. And here's a little tip for you. Even though we have the copper here, kind of a pain in the butt to get, because we have to set up our steam condenser, and we have to set up this, and we have to set up that. If the only thing you're looking for is to get some copper, you know what? Skip this stuff. This is, even if you can produce it on the map, just, don't bother if all you're doing is for copper. Now, later on in the tech tree, if you're starting to get up higher and higher, and if you're trying to get the richy riches involved, then you're going to need your steam condenser, and you might as well tap any copper veins that you have available to you. But for the time being, if all you want is utensils, just import the copper, if you have a source of copper to import. I believe we do. Because copper by itself is usually pretty cheap. There we go. So we'll open up this road. We could also import potatoes if we really wanted to, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another warehouse here. And again, when you're setting up new warehouses, do it when it's paused. Do it when the game is paused. Because that way people won't start flooding it with goods that you don't want it to have. So we're going to refuse everything. And in here, we're going to accept copper. And we're going to accept utensils, because once the utensils are made, they have to sit somewhere before the shops pick them up. And again, since we don't want one to flood the other, we are going to kick these down to 50-50 mix here. That way you're not building, you could technically build a warehouse for every good, but that's, that's a little excessive. Just a touch. Just a touch excessive. So we don't need to do that. And yeah, we're going to go here and tell them to import as much copper as we can. That's actually not that much, but it should be enough for what we do. The other thing I've noted is, in order, just like with the beer, keeping each of these housing blocks supplied with utensils, you need one per block. So we're going to get two cutlery manufacturers here. Now, we are introducing an intersection here. That's going to throw off the path of this guy. Not too much, though. Let me take a look here. Yeah, because even if he takes a detour down this way, this guy overcovers this area enough that I don't think we'll have any collapses. Normally I like to do it where each block has its own dedicated engineer, but in setups like this, it's pretty good. But once this road gets longer and longer, we're going to need to cap it off and give it its own engineer so that this guy doesn't wander too far. So let's build ourselves their two utensil factories here. Uno and Dos. Those will get populated shortly. Now, the other thing to note is, in terms of if you're producing it yourself, one mine will feed one utensil factory. So we have the wherewithal to get two of those drills going. So once we have those set up, then we can stop importing copper altogether, because we'll be able to naturally feed our two cutlery makers, and those two cutlery makers will be able to supply our two lines of housing blocks. So that should help you out, because oftentimes this level 6 step is the one that's really kind of the tricky one, in terms of just keeping yourself growing at a pretty steady pace. If you're trying to get your houses maximized, that is. In our next episode, we will cover steam. I will actually build our steam condenser, and I'll give you some hints and tips in regards to using that behemoth. So if you like this episode and want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback is always welcome. So until next time, this has been Pinstar signing out. See ya.